the scary part.
I can't hear you, Dino.
You can't hear me? Uh-oh. Hold on.
I can hear you for what it's worth.
Oh, you can? Why?
Can't.
Dom can hear me, but why not
Weird.
can't? Can
And
you
why
hear
not
Dom?
Hear me?
I can hear you.
Interesting.
Wow. Hold on a second. But Dom, you can hear me.
Auspicious start.
Here's a question. Can everyone who's tuning in right now hear Dino?
Yeah, can you guys just type in the comments if you guys can hear me? And wow, that's weird.
She's saying try leaving and coming back, so I'm going to do that. I'll be right back. Okay.
Okay.
Cool.
All right. But yeah, if anybody, let's see. SVT base, you can hear me. Thank you.
Cool. Thank you.
Oh, cool.
Morning, Paul.
Yeah. Hey, Paul.
Base.
So we're gonna wait for Whynot to dial back in.
Can you hear me now? Yes, I can.
There we go.
All right.
Awesome. Thank you. Hey, everybody, welcome to SVT time. I get to say my intro all over again. It's Tuesday. It's SVT time. This is episode 98. What can I say? Dom is fresh in from Nashville, like just landed, just got home in time to do the broadcast. And of course, our very special guest today is Whynot Jansveld, joining us from the road on tour with the Wallflowers.
That's right.
And where are you today, Whynot?
I'm in Lawrence, Kansas, reporting live, and good to see you both.
Welcome, man. First of all, if you would, I know, over the years, pronounce the proper pronunciation of your name, if you don't mind.
First name or last, or both?
Both.
Well, okay. So starting with my last name, it's Jansveld in Dutch. I'm from Holland, born and raised, and but over the years, I've kind of Americanized it to Jansveld because it's just easier. And then my first name, which isn't Whynot, but it's fairly close to the Dutch Wynand, which is it's actually pretty rare name, and even in Dutch. I think I've met like 2 or 3 people in my life that have that name. It's like an old name, if you will.
Sure.
And and it has sort of like a series of vowels and consonants in a row that also don't register with English speakers. And so early on, it morphed into Whynot, and it stuck. And it's easier and funnier and more memorable, and generally that helps.
Yeah, no, and I didn't mean to put you on the spot. I'm very sensitive about pronunciation of people's names, especially with a last name like Monoxylus, which there's no way to mispronounce. People are always like, "How do you pronounce your last name?" It's like, I don't know. My grandfather always said Monoxylus, but it could be pronounced any way. So just hypersensitive about pronouncing people's names properly. So
I appreciate it.
I'm
not.
I feel like we need to apologize to all the English speakers for making him change his name. I mean, that's terrible.
Well,
like I said, it's worked in my favor, right? Unless you're running from the law or something. But generally speaking, like people remember, because it's unusual, and so that's been good.
Yeah. No. Well, anyways, thank you for joining us today. I know you're on the road, and it's always like, just when you're on the road on tour, it's always everything kind of revolves around the show at night. So depending on what your schedule is like today, and we'll probably cap this at about an hour anyways, because I know you got to get back to the venue and do sound check and all that fun stuff too. So
sure do.
So speaking of sound check, I wanted to dive in and just get a glimpse of like what does a typical Wallflowers sound check? How does it go? Are you
guys pretty efficient and to the point, and we don't really belabor it. Like some artists or bands you hear about who do who do hours long sound checks. One friend of mine who shall remain nameless, they refer to their sound checks as the matinee show. And ours isn't that. It depends if our front man is coming or not. But even then, it's about the same. We play, we probably play through three, four tunes tops, and then assuming everything works, then we're good.
Yeah,
Cool.
yeah.
Yeah.
And I will say this: when we saw you up in Laconia, months ago, and we were up in one of the balconies overlooking the stage, but
Right.
you sounded killer. Your bass, and of course, I'm obviously I focus on what the bass sounds like out front, but the bass just sounded killer. I mean, everything. Yeah,
I've heard through like iPhone recordings, like anything that you've reposted or whatever that I've seen from the road. I'm like, man, how does it sound that good?
Oh, that's cool. That's cool. Yeah, I mean, major props to our sound guy Frankie, who likes to mix it like he's making a record. You know what I mean? Like he kind of wants it to sound like a Stones record or something like that. That's sort of like his goal. And I mean, lots of compliments from people in the audience to him, to how he's pulling it all together. And there's a lot going on, six people making noise on that stage.
Yeah. It's not, it's not your typical just two guitars and a keyboard player, and you know what I mean. There's a lot of different parts that are going on in a Wallflower that everybody wants to hear different parts, and I will say this too, like typically when Rachel and I go to a show, we always bring foam plugs. Like we always stick foam plugs in our pockets because you never know where you're going to be sitting. And we didn't need plugs. That was the other thing. It was loud enough that you knew you were at a rock show, but it wasn't like we gotta stuff our ears. So
that makes me really happy to hear, because I mean, we all take it for granted that you go to a rock show and you got to protect your hearing, and I understand you want it to be like overwhelming and you want it to have an impact and all, but exactly as you say, both things can be true at the same time. You don't have to blow out your eardrums, and you can still have the feeling that you're after. And so I'm happy that our guys do that. Did that for you. Yeah.
Hey, we're gonna talk about your rig here in a second too, because the white SVT, KT88s, 60, like Whynot and I have gone down that rabbit hole. Not too deep, but we've gone down that rabbit hole. So we're going to talk about that. But I want to back up a little bit and talk a little bit about your background. Were you brought up in a musical family? Why not? Like anybody else in your family play instruments, or how did you get to where you are?
Very musical family. Although in my immediate to extended family, I'm the only one who pursued it as a career, but it seems like everyone is in a choir. Literally at this point, my parents just quit because they're getting to be of a certain age, and they were kind of done with it. But as if to fill that gap, my brother joined the choir. Nice. He lives in New Jersey, and my sister's in one, my aunts are in one, and uncles, and my grandfather could sing off of sheet music, for instance.
Wow.
Oh wow.
Yeah. So he was very musical, and so it was always there. There was always music. Like the radio was always on in the house, top 40 type stuff, and growing up in Holland, like the radio was very eclectic. It wasn't sort of like categorized in it according to style like it often is here, right? And so you'd have anything really, right? There'd be like a metal hour at some point on our sort of like what was our main popular music station, and that was but it was a lot of top 40, and that's kind of what I grew up on: rock music and pop. And then I had some experiences with. I remember sitting down at a piano, never having played one, and as a little kid, I was really little, and I just remember like, that's the thing about a piano. Like you can like, if you happen to play a certain combination of notes, it could be music right there,
Yeah.
and I was just like amazed by it, and I thought I was playing the most beautiful stuff ever until somebody was like, all right, that's enough. And, and so, that, and I, for some reason, I knew early on when I was about 8 that I wanted to play guitar. I didn't want to bother with all the, first you play the recorder nonsense. I didn't have time for that. So,
no twinkle, twinkle.
Yeah, no. Let's get to the good stuff. And so I started on classical guitar, and which incidentally, fast forwarding to bass, I think it has a lot to do with how I played bass, because I sort of used like these 4 on each, like not including the pinky, although sometimes I incorporate that too, but like one per string almost, E string and then the other 3. And I think it's from having started on classical guitar. And and then some sort of like Western style guitar as I got a little older. Then I got super into Kiss, and so I needed a Sunburst Les Paul. It was an awful guitar, but yeah. So I was about 12, started playing electric guitar, and then age 16 was kind of when the switch happened. And so it just kind of kept going and it kept going, and I didn't immediately think like, yes, this is what I want to do for a living. In fact, I graduated high school. I went to college in Amsterdam for something totally not music related, and only once I was close to graduating from the University of Amsterdam did I realize like, I need to pursue this or I'm going to regret it. And regardless of whether it works out, you know what I mean? I was like, I need to chase this down a little bit. And so I did, and here we are.
Interesting. And so you had already graduated from University of Amsterdam and then decided, okay. All right.
Yeah. Or actually like I had already, I had already applied for Berklee College of Music in Boston. I had been accepted, got a partial scholarship, and I was already enrolled when I like wrote my final thesis for my studies back in Amsterdam, because just a little completion sense, you know what I mean? I was like, I've come this far, I don't know if I'll ever use it, but let me just button it up and
of course. But on the other side of things too, you're just a glutton for punishment at that point. It's like I'm finishing up a degree and now I'm going into another completely different field of study. Wow.
Yeah. So and had parents who were supportive of it, right? Because that age that was still crucial, right? And somehow they didn't try to talk me out of it, or try to tell me that it was time to look for a job or something like that. They were like, no, they've always trusted me, basically. You know what I mean? To make those types of decisions, and I'm obviously happy that they did.
Wow. Yeah, that it is especially and very much myself. I had parents that were very supportive of doing what we did, and I worked for my father for 10 years before before I made the decision to like, I want to go to LA and I want to study and and at first I thought he was going to be like, no, you're part of the family business, you have to. He was like, go get out, so that's cool. Now coming to Berklee, was that your first jump over to the US and pursuing a career here in the United States by coming to Berklee, or had you already kind of been over in the US doing music? And
I had when I was 18, I just turned 18, graduated high school. I kind of was looking for something to do, like a gap year, right? Like before going to college, and I was looking around, and I a buddy of mine who I was in one of my first bands with, his family was a host family for a couple days for this group called Up With People, and American based but very international, and the kids about like 18 to 25. You travel around for a year, you stay in host families, there's a show. They're all amateurs, but and I was like, and I was really kind of blown away by it. There was a really great show in my hometown that they did. I went there, And I was like, this would be fun, and I want to be in the band for this thing, and I want to play bass. And so I did
Yeah.
that. I did that for a year, and over the course of a year, saw 25 of the 50 United States, and a lot of small towns. So that was a super interesting early, like in retrospect, right? Like having
Yeah.
now lived here for as long as I have, like,
Mhm.
I saw so much of the country, that was unusual. You know what I mean? Like an
Sure.
unusual look at the country. And then we went to Europe with that thing. We actually went to the Soviet Union in 1988.
In 88.
Yeah, 88.
Wow.
I'm dating myself, but yes. And
Wow.
so that was, super interesting. I was the right age, you know what I mean, to do it, because, it's a very, um, it was adventurous in a lot of ways, but it was also very kind of like sheltered, you know what I mean, and safe, and all that stuff. And it was the right thing for me at that age, I think.
Sure.
And got to hone my English skills, and make music, and make tons of friends from all over the globe
Yep.
through that
Yep.
thing. And then, it's sort of how I got on the trail of Berklee College of Music, because I met a few people there, who had like spent a semester there, and the way they were talking about it, I was like, that seems like that could be a good entry point, right? Like when I was at that stage of like trying to decide if I should stick with what I had gone to college for or not, pursue the
Yep.
music thing. I was like, let me try that. Let me go for one semester to Boston, and then it just kind of kept, I
Yeah.
kept liking it, and then 3 years in Boston, and then made the leap to New York City, and lived there for 16 years, and it just kind of kept going and going and going.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. It's the natural. It seems like nothing was forced. It was just a natural progression
Yeah.
of a career, So,
Yeah. Yeah.
Man, that's so. What years were you at Berkeley, if you don't mind me asking?
93 through 96.
Oh, okay. So I was in LA at the time,
Yeah.
but I had considered going to Berkeley
Hmm.
before going to Musicians Institute in Hollywood. Musicians Institute was the 1 year school. It was a hell of a lot cheaper than Berkeley. And
Yeah. Yeah.
so, yeah. And so Rich Appleman was the chair at the time.
He
Yeah.
sure was. Yeah. Love Rich. Yeah.
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 Yep. Yeah.
He was great.
What was
And
your? I was gonna say, what was the big decision that kind of made you go to New York to LA?
From New York to LA, that one came. I mean, obviously a whole bunch of stuff happened in the meantime, right? Because 16 years passed. But at the time, I had started doing some touring, some national touring in, we're talking like 2004, 5, 6, with Gavin DeGraw at the time. That was like the first time I stepped on a tour bus, and did all that. And then in the years after that, just doing local gigs and some touring. But at a point where I wasn't doing any touring, I met these guys who were in a band in New York. They were all a little bit younger than me by about 13 years, but we all just hit it off, and I joined the band. I literally like hit pause on my sideman career, and threw in my lot with these guys, and I played with them for like 6 years, and I'm really happy that I did, even though at some point it ended. But I had never really done that, like be in a band, right, where it's the four of you, and you're responsible for literally everything that happens.
sure.
um and at some point we had started sniffing around LA. One of the guys, his girlfriend was an actor, and she had worked there, and so we just kind of started going there more and more. At some point, we didn't leave, and yeah, yeah. So
I was No, I was just going to ask you. So, how did you end up in LA? But you just answered the question there.
that was basically it, right? And I remember a few years prior, I lived I had a great apartment in Brooklyn, and Carroll Gardens, and fourth floor walk up, and taking the subway and all that kind of stuff. And I remember sort of like having this thought, like I know I'm not going to do this forever,
Yeah.
meaning schlep my gear up and down the stairs, and take the subway to gigs. but I don't know what's going to come in its place, right? I wasn't trying to figure it out. I was just like, yeah, something will happen.
Yeah.
Because it always does. And so that's what it ended up being. And so, you know, we ended up in LA with that band, and we were a band for another few years, and then at some point it ended. And we initially all stayed, and because we all just loved it, loved the LA lifestyle, and
Sure.
and you know, people ask me which I prefer between New York and LA, and I always say I loved New York for that part of my life, for that time in my life, and I love LA for this part of my life, and that's really how it is.
I love the theme of your career is like you're present. You're like,
yeah,
it feels like you're always present, and you're always trusting that there will be a next step, and you'll know when to take it, and that's really cool.
Thank you. And it's a gamble, right? In a lot of ways, because you know, it's an up and down type of existence, and there have certainly been times in my life where I was like, I hope this gamble pays off, right? I hope I don't become a burden on somebody else when I'm old, and I've wondered it, but I've never been close to abandoning it. Even though, you know, there have been times where it was challenging to make it all work. But I would say if I've been good at one thing, it's been sort of like recognizing opportunity when it presented itself, and seizing it. And those can be really tiny little things, right? It can be meeting somebody at a club where you just played a gig, or they just played a gig, or something like that, and taking the time to go talk to them or something like that. Like I think I've been effective at that.
Yeah. Like Dom said, you know, it's I mean, there's just a certain trust in yourself that you just kind of, you know, I mean, there's been times in my own career too, and I'm sure everybody's gone through this, where you start to panic.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like there's always that level of panic where it's like, oh, all right, you know, and you talk to other musicians, and it's like, well, I'm you know, I haven't had a gig or this and that, but you know, it comes to a certain point, like Dom was saying, and like you're saying, Whynot, there's a certain amount of trust, not just in yourself, that kind of everything is going to work out if I just focus on what I need to do, and the pieces fall into place.
Exactly. Yeah. And being thorough, and being good to the people around you, and you know, not phoning it in ever. And you know, it's all those little things, and at some point you just have to, well, you don't have to, because nothing is guaranteed, not in this business, and not with this timeline and technology, right? Nothing is guaranteed, but yeah, you're right. A certain confidence and trust, and really like a desire that this is what I want to do, and I don't want to replace it with anything else, right? That's what kept me sort of like in it, without really hesitating or challenging that idea.
Yeah. You've worked with, I mean, I'm looking at some of the artists that you've worked with and played with. Obviously, Wallflowers, Richard Marx, Matchbox 20, Wayne Krantz. I mean, it's kind of a diverse art roster there. Is there something that you can share with us that is there something that you do specifically that your playing would appeal to such a diverse bunch of artists, like from Wayne Krantz to, you know, to Gavin DeGraw, for instance?
Yeah, well, that's a great question. I think that it would be a sense of holding it down without dumbing it down, if that makes any sense.
Sure.
Wow, that's really good. I'm going to put that on my website.
That's an album title.
God damn. Wow. No, but
and good for, you know.
Well, and so what I mean by that is it always needs to be anchored in, and I mean it's such a cliche, but it's a
Yeah,
cliche because it's true, right?
yeah,
It needs to be locked into a groove. Like you can do all the fancy stuff, but if the fancy stuff gives you a feeling like, oh, are we gonna land this plane or what? You know what I mean? Or the time just gets wonky and weird
right.
and um I'll tell you one little story. So Wayne Krantz, of course, is one of those artists. Like it's the craziest, most advanced, wildest music that I've ever played, right? And it came in the context of me subbing for Tim LaFave, who was a great friend of mine,
Mhm.
right when he was, and we're talking like late 90s, like
Sure.
99 to 2000 or whatever. And so Tim every once in a while would be out of town or on tour, and for a period of time, for about maybe year and a half, 2 years, I was the regular sub with Wayne, with Keith on drums, who I recently had a really great catch up, Keith Carlock.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. And at one of those gigs was at the 55 bar in New York when that still existed. And and I'm setting up my gear for a Wayne Krantz gig, and I look over at the front door and it opens up and somebody's walking in, and I'm looking and I'm like, that's Anthony Jackson. and and I'm like, and I kind of just had sort of like a little powwow with myself, and I was like, okay, Anthony Jackson's here. All right. And basically what I told myself is like, well, if there's one thing I'm not going to do is impress Anthony Jackson with my chops, right?
Right.
Like that's just not that's not a thing. But so I'm just going to do what I think I do best, which is hold it down,
Sure.
and keep it interesting. But like I want to just groove the pants off this thing, and I think I did, and it was a fun gig. And at the end of the night, Anthony had nice things to say, and then at the end of the night, Wayne and I were sitting at the bar having a beer, and he looks over, he goes, "I'm proud of you, man." And I'm like, "Oh yeah?" And he goes, "Yeah, you really held your own." And I was like, "All right, cool, thanks." And so,
Wow.
which is,
Sure.
I'm tooting my own horn here, but hey, whatever. And so that's what I guess what I think I'm good at is to hold it down.
Yeah.
And then in the context of that, I like to be melodic and I like to play stuff up on the neck. But it's about finding the spots where that makes sense and where that's exciting. And then but still you're always providing the foundation for
Yeah.
whatever's going on. So
Yeah. No, that is a perfect answer, and yeah, especially so, Wayne saying proud, he knew what pressure you were under just with Anthony Jackson being in the room, which that to me is like, wow, that's really cool of Wayne to know what's going through your mind, knowing that Anthony's in the room and like, oh, wait a second, my boy here is like, he's not he's under pressure because
he's in the hot seat.
We got a legend in the room here, So yeah, and that's I don't know. I mean, you've experienced it at Berkeley. Dom's experienced it on his gigs, and I've experienced it. It's like, what do you do when a legend walks in the room, and what can you do? You play your thing. You do your job.
It's truly the only option. It's the only option. Like the idea that you're gonna like play differently all of a sudden because of that person in the room. It's never gonna be authentic.
No.
It's never gonna feel right. Just double down on your strengths. And to answer the rest of your question, I like to think that I bring that to this gig, to other people that I've toured with. The Matchbox 20 thing was I was filling in, for their bass player for two tours of about a month each, and that first one with very very little preparation time. But it's the same idea, right? You hold it down, make that bottom big, and
And I got to say, in terms of, obviously you had mentioned Tim LaFave, like when we were talking about Wayne, that was instantly, I was like, okay, so I know Tim had a career and played quite a bit with Wayne. But also, when I think of that circle of bass players like yourself, Tim LaFave, John Button, Hutch, one thing, and Dom's going to laugh at me for saying this, but one thing kind of like comes full circle between all of you is a P bass and an SVT.
It's true.
You know what I mean? Like, I mean, we can have all the custom basses in the world, but like a P bass and an SVT, that kind of.
Yeah. I mean, if I could have only one bass for the rest of my life, then yeah, that would be it. Yeah. And it would be Fiesta Red.
and it would be a 65 or a 64. What is it? Thereabouts? 63.
Oh, the best.
I know, guys. I know.
Dang.
Actually, this is kind of a timely question here. Cameron says, has there ever been a time or place that a venue tells you can't use an SVT? And if so, what did you do?
That's a great question. Well, I mean, in our case, touring with a band, right, is different from doing gigs. And Lord knows I'm not doing gigs with an SVT where I'm lugging that thing. That's just not going to happen. And so in our case, no, because all of that stuff, right? It's a self-contained thing, and it's all worked out in advance. I could certainly imagine that it's just not feasible in certain clubs, but like I said, I'm not crossing that bridge.
Yeah. You got enough vintage gear to worry about. You don't need to worry about an SVT carrying that around.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and it's usually, I mean, there's just, I run into that where I've rolled into certain rooms around here and big rooms with an SVT. And the front of house guy, the house front of house guy would say, like, where are you going with that? You're like, what are you rolling an 810 cab and an SVT? It's just like, right there next to the drum riser,
It's quite a statement, though. You got to admit.
I got so much flack.
But at the end of the night, you use it, like anybody that knows how to play on stage and how to present themselves. You use it judiciously.
Yep.
And every time at the end of the night, the front of house guy, would be like, you know what? It actually sounded pretty cool. Like you weren't killing me in the front of house. I had you in the house, and did I enjoy rolling an 810 cab and an 80-pound head into? No, it sucks. I'm 60 years old, man. I don't want to be lifting that stuff anymore. But But now you have, and we're still trying to figure this one out. Why not? You have a pretty special SVT and 810 cab.
I do,
and I don't have pictures of it up ready to go, but we'll post them here after the broadcast. But it's a white SVT, a white grill cloth.
Actually, kind of like a tan gold grill cloth.
Yeah. And we've been trying to determine what the year was, and if it was a factory.
I know the year, but what I don't know is if Ampeg made it that way with the white Tolex and of course the matching 810 cab. Yeah. That's also white Tolex with the same grill cloth. It is in 1987. I know that because there's a plaque on the back.
Yep.
So I'll tell whoever's watching the story. Basically, we were on tour last summer, and as you do, kind of like online checking what's for sale on Craigslist or Facebook Marketplace or Reverb in the towns where we're going, right? Because that's often like a great way to connect with someone, try out an instrument, and make a deal. And I wasn't looking for an SVT at all. I had a rig that I was pretty happy with, and I saw this ad. I was just seeing what's available under the bass category on Craigslist, and we were about a week out from being in Denver, and so I was on the Denver Craigslist website, and And the title of this post of this ad was "World's Sickest Bass Rig." And so I'm like, go on. And so of course I click on it, and it's that. And as it was explained in the ad, I didn't know anything about this, but of course I've learned about it since. Was that when the St. Louis music company took over the Ampeg brand in '86? I've heard sort of like slightly different versions of this story, but the gist of it is that they found essentially like a container full of '70s components. Yep. Right.
Yep.
And they kind of wanted to make a splash because I don't think the Ampeg brand was riding high at that particular point.
Correct.
And so they were like, we got to do something cool, right, to sort of announce our acquisition of the Ampeg brand and how we're going to go forward. And so they decided to make 500 '70s style SVT heads with '70s components where they could find them, and or similar components as what would have been used in the decade prior. And so it's from 1987, and they made 500 of those. And there's a little plaque on the back that says 256 out of 500. And then it says Skunk Works, which is what that team of people who put the SVTs together call themselves. And so, it was a limited run. They're really, really well made. And of course, like, people love those '70s style, those '70s heads. And so this was kind of like the closest you could get without, it actually being a '70s SVT. And it's cool as hell. And it needed, and to finish that story, like, the guy I talked to, and he, he was bummed that they had to let go of it, but he was psyched at the idea that it would go to a working band that he knew. Sure. and so we agreed that, he brought it to soundcheck. He got a little U-Haul trailer and oh, there it is. There we go.
Beautiful.
Yeah, right. In a white road case, and there's a white road case for the head as well.
That's so
and of course we got to call attention to my backup head at the very top there, the Ampeg V12.
Yep.
Thank you, Dino and Dom.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah. And so he brought it to sound check. We fired it up. Sounded great. I handed him the cash, and in the trailer it went.
And the lowercase logo is what does it for me.
No,
what's that?
Like the old vintage lowercase logo is just
same. Yeah.
Did it come? Did he have it in the road case, or did you put it in the road case?
Came in the road case, like, good to go. Yeah. All we have to do is lock it up after the show and wheel it into the trailer. Yeah. And the SVT did, after about 3 gigs, it started exhibiting some problems, which is, not surprising for a head, for a tube head of that age that hadn't been serviced in decades.
Sure.
I'm pretty sure. And I think a lot of, like, the components inside of it, tubes and caps and all that, were original. And so I found a great guy, John Capito, Capito, in Nashville, who a few people recommended to me as a guy who really, really knows tubes and bass tube gear. And we talk about going down a rabbit hole. He and I went down the rabbit hole, and he kind of, like, rebuilt the thing from the inside out, and anything that he thought needed replacing and was liable to fail, you know what I mean, within the next whatever, he fixed and or replaced. And ever since I got it back, it's been flawless. We can go down the whole power tube rabbit hole now, if you want.
So I remember John, we were texting back and forth between KT88s and 6550s, and it currently has KT88s in it, correct?
It does. So what we decided to do, so we had a period of about 4 to 5 months from between November of last year and April of this year where we were not on tour, right? And it was during that time that John had my SVT. And I basically was like, I'm not in a hurry. We're not going back out until April, so I'll to take however much time you need or work on other stuff in the meantime. But we kept in regular touch, and one of the things that he was really curious about is just different brands and types of power tubes.
Yeah.
And what we ended up deciding to do, and he was very careful to kind of pitch this to me, because like some people be like, just fix the damn thing and then I'll then send it back.
Sure.
and we're done. But he suggested, why don't we like try different power tubes, and while you're on the road, he was really interested in kind of like having me as my earlier joke about reporting live from Lawrence, Kansas, like that's what I was for him. And he was and is so psyched to sort of have that dialogue. And he tried, so we tried, since we're in the weeds, it's SVT time, right? We tried JJ 6550s. We had a set of Softec 6550s, and then we had a set of JJ KT88s. Okay. And he made sure all those tubes were good, right, when he had it in his shop, and he tried them all out. But of course, like having it in your workspace, firing it up is different than on a stage. But he definitely formed his own opinions about which of those he liked best for this particular head. And but he was like, I'm going to resist the temptation to tell you which I think are best. I want you to tell me what you think is best, and then we'll see where we're at. Mm-hmm. Which is obviously the right way to do it. And so that's what we did. And I took the thing out, and I did about 10 shows each on each sextet of tubes. Yeah. And they were all a little bit different, but then the KT88s were the last ones that I put in, and I was like, oh, like this low end feels cleaner and more solid and more, like you can hear the fundamental as opposed to it being implied. And that's what I told John, and he was so psyched, because that's exactly what he thought. He was like, I like those the best too. Right, yeah. And and it might be different for somebody else, right? If you're obviously, a lot of people who play SVTs love the growl and the mid range and the aggressiveness of it. For me personally, an SVT is SVT enough. Is aggressive enough, is mid-range enough, no matter what you do, just on account of the fact that it's 300 watts of tube power. And so to kind of like skew to the big sort of chest thumping low end and a clean fundamental note like that was it for me. Yeah. It was no contest. And when I told him that, he absolutely, that was the conclusion he had come to. So JJ KT88s, it is for me for the foreseeable future. Yeah.
Cool. Yeah. Yeah, and that, and I had a mid 70s Magnavox SVT that back when I was living in LA, Groove Tubes, when Groove Tubes was in Silmar, I brought my amp into them to service, and they put a set of KT88s in it at the time too.
Okay,
I remember kind of the same thing. It was a hot, more, the only way I could describe it was more of a hi-fi sounding amp for what an SVT is. But like you're describing, it was clear bottom end, not as much growl in the mid range, and and at that time I was of the old, like, no, I gotta have that SVT growl and the distortion. It was like, take these things out, but. When we were talking about the KT88s, and you were saying how John was putting the KT88s, and I was like, yeah, it's been a while since I revisited that. And I know Dom and I have had this conversation quite a bit over, over development, and, with the SVT, like, do we KT88s? Do we put 6550s? How do we, so.
Yeah, like, and it's more out of the box kind of thing.
Yeah, exactly. And it's so tricky, right? Because I mean, one KT88 isn't the same as another one, especially across the years, across the decades, right? It can vary so much, and But man, it's one of those things. Like I had never owned an SVT before, and when I found this thing, you know, I talked it through with our crew guys, right? Because and especially for a while we had to carry both amps, right? The one that I had and this new one. But anyway, they're the best, and they were like, you know, this makes sense. Like, this is gonna be awesome.
Yeah.
And
I was gonna ask, what did your tech say when you said, "Hey, by the way, I'm going from"?
They were down.
Okay.
They were down, and we figured it out. We're like, all right, what if we, because I had two 410s, no, sorry, I had a 410 and a 210, and we're like, all right, we'll put those under the bus, right? Because we have a bus and trailer. We'll put those under the bus, and then this one will go in the trailer pack, and you know, I started thinking about it. I was like, man, I've never had one. If there's one band that I have an SVT, and this is the one, you know, it looks right. We as a band, you know, we have an actual Hammond B3, and Leslie, we have an actual piano. We have obviously all the guitar amps you can shake a stick at, but you know what I mean? It's like there's no tracks, there's no click. It's just 6 people playing those instruments, and it makes sense for this band. And you know, maybe I'll never get to use it in another situation, and that's okay too. It's worth it for this band. Absolutely.
Apparently Haji, good old Haji, number 391. 500.
Nice.
Oh, now why not? I don't know if you know Haji or not, but Haji is our senior product specialist. He's been with Ampeg for almost as long as I have prior to Loud Technology. But Haji, I got to ask you, because now this is sparking my memory too, because I think the original discussion was if the white Tolex and the grill cloth was factory or not. So Haji, if you have any insight on that, let us know, because he does have 391 to 500. I will say this though, Haji, I know the number, because from Whynot Show Me, the number on the back of the head is not the matching number on the back of the cabinet. So they are 2 separate runs. Not 2 separate runs, but you know what I mean? They're not, they weren't, if I remember correctly, when they were sold as units. So like when you bought 300, you got cabinet number 300. That's
interesting. Okay. So that would argue that, and Haji seems to indicate that it isn't, and so that would argue pretty strongly that it's a very well done aftermarket. Whoever did it did a fabulous job of it. They really did.
Yeah. And no tracks and no clicks sounds so refreshing.
Dude, it's, you know, just to get, and same example, like we did a opening slot for Randy Hauser on Friday night, and same thing. It was like their bass player Jay saw my HX stomp on my board. We got into that discussion. He goes, "Nah, man, these are all real live amps up here, and they're tucked under like the risers behind these pallets. Like Randy has a pretty old school country setup." And it was the same thing. It was like, nah, all tube amps, no in-ears, no nothing. Like everything is just monitors, amps, guitars.
You know, and that brings up an interesting point, because I love my vintage gear, obviously, right? And but I also love marrying it with hyper modern technology, right? And so case in point, I have a digital floor thing that I send a signal out to the house, and and my SVT really is for us on stage, right? Because and that is a personal preference of our sound guy. He loves a direct sound to sculpt for his particular sound, and that's absolutely totally fine with me. If you wanted to mic the SVT, then awesome too. But I'm not a vintage gear Nazi. You know what I mean? Like I love what modern technology has to offer when it comes to all that, and they can be combined to great effect as far as I'm concerned.
No, you like, you know, you use the technology to your advantage, just like you use vintage gear to your advantage. And yeah, it's a happy marriage. It's kind of, you know, it's kind of like when you go to one side or the other sort of thing, and you stay there, you know. You know, we've had discussions with John Button, same thing, you know, like John loves his vintage gear, but he also uses a lot of digital processing, and not a lot of digital, but he does use, you know, whether it's a Helix or a Quad Cortex or whatever.
It makes so much sense, right? Like I love my in-ears, and I love the fact that I can sculpt what I'm hearing, and then I'm protecting my hearing, which is another thing, right? Because I have to, because of my other job.
Yeah. Right. Oh, we haven't. Yeah, we do. See, I knew we were going to do this too. Right. So, what is your so? I know I had mentioned producing, but also mastering. So how did you fall into the mastering side of the business?
Ass backwards. Okay. Like literally just like stumbled into it like that. No, it was this is about 10 years ago. A friend of mine had some tracks that he had recorded, and they, you know, had it mixed and mastered, and he was not happy with the mastering job that they did on it. And it was, you know, I don't remember who it was. It was a reputable mastering house somewhere, I think LA, but you know, I didn't even know that for sure. But and he asked me if I would have a listen to it, right? Because he's like, am I crazy? Can you like listen to this? And so I did, and I heard what he was hearing, right, about it being just kind of had the life squeezed out of it a little bit. And so almost as a joke, I was like, I'll see if I can beat it. And I had started doing some stuff with composing, and so, you know, just in the box and plugins and all that kind of stuff. And so I just kind of did what I thought was reasonable, and the same stuff that I would do to a track that I would have composed and made sound the best that it possibly could.
Sure.
And so I did that with his track or tracks, and he loved it, and he was like, yes, that's how I want it to sound. And then he just insisted on throwing me more stuff, and then he insisted on recommending me to other people, right, like little indie bands and artists, and you know, and I was like, well, this is hilarious. So I was like, I can't charge money for this. But then he was like, yes, you can. And so I did. And, you know, just ridden with imposter syndrome, and like, I don't do this, you know. But then, you know, as with everything, you do it and you keep doing it. And then with it, every time you do it, you get a little more insight and a little more comfortable. And so that was 10 years ago, and it just kept happening. Like, it's as simple as that. And yeah, and I've shed my imposter syndrome, and I've worked with some really amazing artists and bands, and it's, you know, and it's a thing that I can, that sort of dovetails perfectly with my bass playing activities, even touring, you know, and we could talk about this, but I basically like researched whether or not I could do this on headphones. And I'm, you know, I'm sure a lot of people would poo the idea, but I actually like talked to some people who did it at the highest level, and did most of their mastering on headphones. And I ended up talking to those people, and then found a pair of headphones that I loved, and then tested myself. You know what I mean? Like, as much as I could, where like I would do a mastering project on headphones, then take it back to my studio next time I was home, and see if I missed anything. And once I had kind of like satisfied myself, like, no, this is that's what it sounds like, and no surprises. So all of that to say, it's a nice steady stream of mastering work that comes my way. It doesn't take over my life. I don't advertise it. I don't try to make it more, because it's kind of perfect. You know what I mean? Like every week, a few things come in. Sometimes it's a record, sometimes it's an EP or just a track. And it just kind of keeps coming. Yeah.
See, that, you know, we've talked to so many artists over the however long SVT time has been going, you know, and everybody dabbles. You know, obviously we're all bass players, we're all musicians, we're all composers. Then we cross into the producing side of things where we've talked to artists. It's like, yeah, I produce artists. I go in the studio. We talk about, the link between being a bass player and being a good producer, and how that, how does a bass player make a good producer and vice versa. But we've never really talked about mastering, and it's something that I'll be honest, I'm a neophyte when it comes to this, because that's like totally beyond my realm of understanding. But so when you're mastering something, it's all what you're hearing. Am I right? Like, and it's not like, oh, we're going to put it into this machine and it's going to do all this stuff for me and send it back. But
no, and you can approximate a good mastering job these days, right? There are plugins where you kind of can do that, and like, all right, this sounds good enough. But like, do you really know if it's the best that it could be? And I mean, I do find that there's a correlation. I mean, it's sort of like nicely bookended, right? Like on the bass side, you're at the very, very beginning of the recording process, and then on the mastering side, you're at the very end. And there have been plenty of times where I was both, right? Where I played bass, like the last Wallflowers record, or like a couple of Butch Walker albums, where I played bass, and then it came back to me months later. You know what I mean? And it's like, oh, cool. And I do think that all the years that I spent in recording studios, and then hearing the final results, like you do bring a musician's ear into it. And then the other thing I was going to say is I love like demystifying the thing, because it's not voodoo, it's not, you know what I mean, there's no secret society where like you learn how to do this. Or
I was going to say, like, of all the trades though, I feel like mastering is the most mystified and the most like the easiest to have imposter syndrome with, because you're used to the old days of seeing, anybody who is like a reputable mastering engineer is like in a massive, super expensive studio with the highest tech of any type of playback system or anything. So I think, it's easy to be like, oh man, I'm just sitting at home with my laptop, how can I pull this off? But it truly is mostly easier. And with bass, like most people in their mastering, that's the number one thing they want to get right, is just the consistent bass feel across different songs. So I think, being a bassist really helps in that way.
And I would never talk down to the idea that like beautiful high-end expensive gear doesn't mean anything. You know what I mean? Like it can be magnificent, and if you're, as a client, if you get to go there and you get to listen to it on those things. But I will say that having that space with the view and the speakers up to here, and like that, it's not a guarantee that it's going to be right and that it's going to sound right. And I've seen up close situations where friends of mine like went into a mastering session and it feels performative, right? I'm not saying all of it is, but it can feel performative, where like, and I've been on the music side of it, where they're like, the gold cable or the silver cable, you know what I mean? What do you think? Well, the gold cable, obviously. And and I'm like, there's something about it that feels like they have a vested interest in keeping up the smoke and mirrors, you know what I mean, voodoo thing. And I love kind of piercing through it, because honestly, man, it's about using your ears, and it's about some EQ and some compression and some limiting, and fuck off.
And all the automatic, like,
sorry,
let's up some and then get back, the lander stuff or whatever. Like, not to try to poo-poo that either. Some people that are, they don't have the time, or that you just want to, it's going to be good enough for them. I totally get that. Or if they but I've never heard one of those where I'm like, that's a done thing, or like that's but it's vastly different to me.
It's interesting. And you know what? Who knows where this is going to go in another 6 months, year, 2 years, 5 years, right? Like I'm fully expecting that part of my job to evaporate entirely. And you know what I mean? Like I can't imagine, with how fast AI is going, that in in 2, 3, 4, 5 years that you won't be able to be like, hey, like make this sound exactly the best it possibly can, and that it'll be able to do it. Then again, I don't know. You know, there are still people who like interacting with a human, and so let's count on that.
Getting the human interaction and the human opinion too is priceless in itself. But man, that we got to talk more about this, because to me it's really interesting. Going from producing to mixing to mastering, and obviously I know the process, but I've never, like any project that I've ever worked on, it's always been like, oh yeah, it's off, it's off to the mastering, it's up to the mastering. And it's like, oh, okay, I can't wait to hear it when it comes back. And then you hear it when it comes back and you go, sometimes you go, wow.
Yeah, dude.
Different than before it went to master. Or sometimes it comes
and
back
it's so great when it's good, right? Like when it comes back to you and you're like, oh yes, that has like that final thing that you were hoping for. It's great when that happens.
Yeah. Hey, listen, I know we're at the top of the hour, and
I'm good. But for
I just wanted to make sure you knew that you were perceived as a tone hound. That's all. Go
from our buddy Paul. There's one thing I did not put in the outline that I sent you yesterday, and we do a series of what we call rapid fire questions and answers.
Go ahead. I'm here for it.
So you know what this is all about. Okay. Okay. So it's 16. We're up to 16 questions now. Some of them are pretty serious. Some of them are kind of tongue in cheek, but P bass or jazz bass?
P bass.
Okay.
I can elaborate, or if we could just move on.
No. It's no elaboration. It's whatever comes to mind first.
Yeah.
Passive or active?
Passive.
Okay. Rounds or flats?
Rounds.
Okay. All right.
It's a tough one. It's a tough one, but I'll elaborate a tiny little bit. I feel like I can get everything out of rounds that I could possibly need to, just by using my hands and part of, you know what I mean? And flats, I could never make them do exactly what rounds do, but I can go the other way easier. Yeah.
Yep. And a lot of people feel that way too. B15 or SVT?
Woo! I'm out. Bye. Well, given everything we've talked about, and because it's new in my life, SVT, absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cable or wireless?
Cable.
Okay.
I don't use a wireless, so that one's easy.
Dom and I have had that discussion many times over the last week about cable or wireless. So, pick or fingers?
Fingers, for the same reason as rounds over flats. You know what I mean? Like I can do so much with my fingers, and pick. It's kind of it's not just one thing, but fingers.
Okay, all right. IEMs or floor wedges?
IEMs.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Pedals or no pedals?
I love pedals, but that was a different part of my life. So no pedals.
No pedals.
I love the way he talks about that, like as if they were heavy drugs.
Yeah, exactly.
I finally kicked the pedals. I'm off the pedals.
I've been going to meetings. You know what I mean? I'm staying on the path.
Well, stay away from that hutch guy and that button guy, because they're still hooked on the pedals. Window or aisle?
Aisle.
Okay. Yeah. High bunk or low bunk?
Middle bunk.
Wow. Okay.
Well, so we're assuming we have 3 in a row. I'm middle.
Yes.
Otherwise, I'll take the high.
You'll take the high bunk. Okay.
Yeah.
Talking about Ampeg Cosmetics, black with white piping or silver and blue?
Silver and blue.
Okay.
I feel like we're gonna have to make a new category now.
What's that?
I think based on his rig, we have to make a new category.
Yeah, all white.
World's sickest bass rig. Come on.
World's sickest bass rig. Man. Hot chocolate or coffee?
Coffee. Easy.
Okay.
But good coffee.
Good coffee.
I'm a snob.
I am too. I think Dom is pretty much too now. So
yeah.
Favorite place to eat on the road, and this could be either a specific restaurant or a type of cuisine.
Well, this kind of ties into the last question, which is that in our touring party with our band and crew, I'm known as the coffee Sherpa. And so basically what it means is that I'm usually the first out of the hotel, right? A couple of the guys have their little setups for inside the hotel room, right? Like a little pour over situation, and I think that's awesome. I just love a latte or a flat white. It just does it for me, right? And in this day and age, you can, like, wherever we are, we're usually within walking distance of something, some hipster place with a guy with the handle, twirly mustache and a bicycle on the wall. And I love finding those places. And I find it by looking at latte art on my phone. And
nice.
And so I'm usually like out the door first. I find the place. If it's good, I'll text the rest, and I'll with a little photo, and I'll be like, "Yep, this place has an excellent flat white and some nice pastries and la 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 la." And so I do the coffee report every morning, and so that's my. That's cool. I don't even know if you could call it a guilty pleasure, because there's nothing guilty about it.
No.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the whole. That is the whole thing around having coffee with people, is to go out and socialize and check out a new shop with their coffee. You know what I mean? Obviously I understand, if you're locked in a hotel room and you want to do your pour over and you just want to get but to me, my wife and I do it all the time. We're out on motorcycle rides. It's like, let's find a coffee shop.
Yeah. And it's a part of why I love touring with this band, because we are, like the 1,000-seat theater is sort of the wheelhouse of this band.
Yep.
And it means that we're usually in a theater in town somewhere, and we're usually at a nice hotel that is also within walking distance of everything. And it's nice to have a huge gig, but a huge gig often means that you're in the bowels of some things way out of town, and there's catering and all that kind of stuff, and you'll just never leave that thing, right? And it can feel a little, as awesome as it is, it can feel a little constricting. And I love the fact that I get to walk out the door and be like, okay, now we're in this town, and let's see what this is all about. And I love it.
That's awesome.
Great lens to preview each city.
Yeah.
We talked more about coffee than we did about gear on this quick. Yes. Okay, your go-to lick for sound check.
Ooh, I don't know if I have one. I don't have one that you could identify as a song.
Okay.
No.
Okay.
I just play some shit.
Play some stuff. Okay.
Yeah.
Cheesecake or carrot cake?
Cheesecake.
I told you they get silly. Cheesecake. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. And then last but not least, favorite Saturday morning cartoon.
We didn't have Saturday morning cartoons.
Really?
Yeah, or shoes. No, I'm kidding.
Wait a second. Did you have wooden shoes?
Yeah, wooden shoes. No, Saturday morning cartoons was not a thing growing up. No. We just played, whatever, like went outside, or So I don't have cartoons really. So I'm trying to think, are there any? I don't have any cartoons like associated with my childhood. No, I just simply not. Yeah.
So what was a Saturday morning routine? You just get up and go out and play with your friends?
Yeah, play with your friends, or you play in your room with the little, like Legos, or it's some other Playmobil. Remember those little figurines that you can build a whole city.
Yes. Yeah.
Read comic books.
Yeah,
comic books for sure.
He popped up in the morning and went to find a coffee shop. That's what he did.
No, interesting. Yeah, that's all right. So cool. Yeah, we're like I said, that's 16. We're gonna have to adjust a little bit here, Dom, but we add a couple every now and then. So
we like 20, I think.
Yeah, we'll probably get it up to 20 and
we'll get a little more personal. We'll beef it up a little bit more.
Yeah,
I like it. Speaking of personal, do you like my hotel room artwork?
Yeah,
I'm telling you.
Yeah,
and like they took the time to make sure that they were completely lined up with one another. My OCD's not like all over the place. Like, it's off a little bit.
Yeah, but, yeah. If I were home in LA, there'd be such cool vintage bases just lined up behind me.
Yeah,
that's gonna have to do in Lawrence, Kansas.
What all do you have? 4 bases for the shows on this tour. Is it the Hofner and the P bass?
Yep, those two, and the Hofner. So the P bass is the '63 Fiesta Red, Holy Grail bass that I bought last year, and then the Hofner is that one's really special too. I have a '67 Hofner at home, the Beetle bass, and I obviously, for obvious reasons, more hesitant to take that one out on the road because it's more fragile, right? Yeah. And my friend Brett Simons put me in touch with Hofner and their rep at the time. Obviously, Hofner has been going through some turmoil of late, but the rep at the time, Rob Olson, he's awesome and has become a friend. And he and I started talking, and he agreed that they were going to make a club bass for me to take out on the road. And I just kind of wanted something that was good, but that I didn't care about in that way, you know what I mean? And wasn't afraid to if it got hurt or anything like that. And then as we were talking, he started sending me pictures of this like green paisley finish that he had seen that these guys in Ohio who were putting together the Hofner bases for Hofner. Yeah, there it is. You can see just a little bit of it. It's hard to see from this angle, but it's basically cloth, like actual fabric from the 60s, like original fabric that they put on there in like a vacuum machine, and then there's a lacquer over it. Okay. So it's amazing. It's amazing. And if you kind of like move it up close, there's these little gold flecks in there that are like sparkling. It's amazing.
That's amazing.
It's amazing. And like as amazing as that Fiesta Red P bass is, like the Hofner gets almost more questions from local crew people, opening bands. They're like, "What's up with that thing?" And it's pretty special. They made 2 of that particular finish, serial 1, serial number 2, and they brought them both out to me when we were in Kent, Ohio, and they brought them both out, and I got to pick which one I liked the best, and it happened to be serial number 1. Wow. And so I mean, they really knocked it out of the park to the point where I'm like, you kind of overshot it here, guys, because now I care.
I was gonna say, what is your mindset on which vintage, like taking vintage bases on the road? Because I've heard the camp of like, oh, I would never leave home with this, and then the other camp is like, you have it. Why do you have it?
Well, when I was trying to decide if I should buy that Fiesta Red P bass or not, which obviously came with a hefty price tag, initially I was like, well, that's out of my league, and then I was like, says who? And and I was kind of like, I think this is kind of like a once in a lifetime type of purchase. But I decided if I'm gonna buy this, then I'm gonna take it out on the road, and I'll accept whatever that means. And as if from up on high, it's the first show, I scratched the hell out of it, and I was being so careful, guys. Like I was like literally like the buckle of my belt was like off to the side. You know what I mean? I was like, okay, so that's safe. And like the zipper of my jacket, okay, that's nowhere near. And that my laminate was in my pocket, and the little swivel thing was like sticking out of the top of my pocket. And like, dude, first show. And so across the back, there's like over the course of like an hour and 45 minutes, it just kind of went scratch, in one, and it's like this big on the back of my bass. And I was like, this has to be some kind of like divine intervention thing or something. Not that I believe in any of that, but you know what I mean? It's kind of like the universe had to show me like, don't get too far ahead of yourself here. And like, this is now a thing that this is a tool, right? And this tool got scratched up. And like, in a way, I think, even though it hurt to the core of my soul that I did that, it still kind of does. I know that there's something good about it in the sense that like it got scratched up. I did it, right?
Yeah.
Like our crew guys didn't do it, who are understandably a little bit like, oh, that thing's expensive. You know what I mean? And it's like, it doesn't matter. Stuff's gonna happen. It doesn't matter. It's a tool. It still looks beautiful. It's on the back, so who cares? I'm not going to try to sell it, and you know what I mean? Like,
totally.
That's just it. It's not, you know, did it devalue the bass? No, not really, because you're never going to sell it. You know, so yeah.
And even if you were, you could have a buyer like me that looks for the most beat up one. That's like what I want.
Well, and now that bass has a story, and it's my story, and maybe in you know, who knows, in a couple of decades, if I get to play that long, it'll be part of it.
Yeah.
That's why I mentioned it, so it's worth more later.
Yeah.
Documented. Very smart.
No, I'm glad you asked that, though, because that was always my, you know, that was the concern of bringing vintage basses out on the road. And you hear guys, you know, well, you know, my vintage stuff stays home and I bring out reissues that are reissues of the vintage stuff, which is cool too, you know, but for the most part, it's like you didn't buy it to keep it at home. You bought it.
Man. And it happens so much already, right? Like people who don't even have that choice to make. It's just going in a vault. It's never even going to be played even at home. You know, it's a shame. And I've said this many times. I was like, I think there should be like a national sell one instrument to a player day a year. Like it should be a national musician's holiday, right? Where like, if you're a collector, like once a year, just sell one to someone who's really going to play it, right? It'd be amazing because there's some beautiful stuff that is just locked away, and
it should be played. I know,
and it should be played.
And that's, you know, I always believe there's something about, you know, there's something about a piece of wood that's been vibrating at, you know, 2 or 3 different frequencies. Let's say, you know, G, A, and E, for instance, or D. You know, for 50 years, you know, those frequencies have been ingrained into the fiber of that wood. And when you take that away, stop doing that, it kind of loses its mojo.
And it's really why I've come to love vintage instruments. You know, I don't love them because they're old, but I will say that I can't remember a time where I've played a new instrument that had that feeling, right? Like that feeling where it could be in my head, right? It's possible. Your brain is capable of convincing you of a lot of things. Like maybe it is, but there's something about like I can tell that notes have been going through this thing for years and years and years and years, and I don't think I've ever had that feeling with a new instrument, which is why I love playing the old instruments.
Yeah, very true, very true. I feel that same way. I absolutely that is a hill I will die on any day of the year. You know that, you know, and there's a story in that instrument too. You know, not just
exactly,
but there's a story.
And you know, I also think that what we do for a living is a window in time that is tiny, and like we're talking about, you know, whatever, handful of decades, and. When you think about, like, I mean, obviously the job of musician is way older than that, but I'm talking about being an electric bassist, right? That is tiny. And the fact that I can go to like a store and I can buy something that is from the very, very, very beginning of what it is that I do, that I've sort of like hung a pretty big part of my identity on, you know what I mean? I was like, that's pretty cool. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, that's very cool. Yeah.
Will you bring the vintage jazz bass that you brought in through like the whole venture stacks that we went through. Inspired to start my obsession and search, and I got my first vintage P here. But
Nice.
so I got the disease now.
Oh yeah. My apologies, and you're welcome.
Yeah, exactly. We've given him the bug. Dom got his. Is that what is that? Is it a 74 Dom? Or
that one's a 69. Yeah.
Oh, that's right too. I'm sorry.
There, but it's pretty beat up. Which I
yeah,
yeah, 69.
Yeah. He's got.
But then I went further. I found a 55 bass amp, like an original VA combo from.
Oh, for real?
Yeah. Yeah.
Don't do it.
Last week.
Don't do it. Don't do it.
It's too late.
do it.
Yeah. Why not like the emperor? Do it. Strike him
down. Do it. Send pics.
Yeah. It never happened unless we see pictures.
Yep.
Man. Well, man, why not? This has been an absolute. We could talk about the whole psychological, thing behind vintage instruments, and we will at some point too. We're hoping you'll come back on SVT time, and we can we got your background out. We talked about your background, and now we can talk about the meaning behind vintage instruments and all sorts of metaphysical things we can get into here too. So,
and coffee,
coffee. Man, I'm gonna go make a mocha pot right now. I'm all wired up. So
nice. Well, it was awesome talking to you guys. Thank you for having me. I really appreciate it. Always a pleasure.
And everybody out there has to remember, hold it down, but don't dumb it down.
Hold it down, but don't dumb it down. Man, that is like you could almost get 2 albums out of that. The first one being holding it down, and then the second one being dumbing it down.
That'd be really funny. That'd be funny.
It's a 2 album set.
I'm gonna start working on
it. There you go. Anybody in Kansas, by all means, go check out the Wallflowers tonight. Right? You're in Kansas, right?
Lawrence, Kansas tonight, and then we're in other places that Colorado for sure, Montana, and then I'd have to look it up. How it is.
Go check out the Wallflowers, man. You will not be disappointed. It's a great show. And it's live music the way live music should be. And I will say, Jacob, we had the chance to meet Jacob after the show as well. My wife took an instant liking to Jacob. I think he kind of felt this, but absolute gentleman. And I hope he's as much fun to work for as he is to talk to. And
he really is, man. Yeah, he's a special dude, and extremely generous to us. And he reminds us almost every night that before we go on stage that we're his what favorite band, and he's not one to blow smoke, I guess is what I'm saying, and I know that he means it. So it's pretty great.
Yeah, cool. All right, folks. Well, thank you for watching. I think we'll be back I don't have my calendar up, but we'll be back in a couple of weeks here. Thanks, Aaron and Haji in the background here for throwing everything up on the screen and keeping us going. So we'll catch you guys on the next SVT time. Thanks, everyone.